Ethan Cole sat in the corner of La Vita Cafe, the low hum of chatter and clinking glasses fading into the background as he stared at the empty chair across from him. He checked his watch again. 6:45 p.m. His blind date was already 45 minutes late. The flickering candle between them had burned low, its wax dripping down the glass holder in lazy trails, mocking his patience. He tried to look composed, as if being stood up didn't bother him, but the truth was, it did. After years of burying himself in work and loneliness, this date had been his first attempt at letting someone in since his wife's death. His sister had convinced him to try again, promising that the woman she'd set him up with was perfect. He wasn't looking for perfection, though. He just wanted someone to talk to. Someone who might make him forget, even for a moment, that his apartment echoed with silence every night. But as the minutes dragged on, hope began to feel foolish. Maybe this was a sign, he thought bitterly. Maybe love wasn't meant for men like him anymore. He sighed, signaling the waiter for the bill, when a sudden commotion by the door made him look up. Two small girls burst into the cafe, their faces pale and streaked with tears, their matching pink coats soaked from the rain outside. They couldn't have been older than 5. "Please," one cried, her little voice trembling. "Someone help our mommy. She fell down and won't wake up." The cafe froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. Ethan was on his feet before he even realized it, his instincts overriding hesitation. Hey, it's okay," he said, kneeling in front of them. "Tell me what happened." The smaller one hiccuped through sobs. "Mommy fell. She was getting groceries and she didn't move." The other tugged at his sleeve. "Please, mister, come fast." Ethan didn't think twice. He followed the twins through the rain-slicked streets, his shoes splashing through puddles as they darted down a narrow alley beside a convenience store. That's when he saw her, lying still on the wet pavement, groceries spilled around her. A carton of milk had burst, mixing with the rainwater like spilled paint. Ethan dropped to his knees beside her, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Her eyelids fluttered weakly, but she didn't respond. He checked her pulse. Faint, but there. Relief surged through him. "She's breathing," he murmured, then turned to the girls. "She's going to be okay." "What's your name?" "I'm Lily," said the one with the tiny red bow in her hair. "And she's Lila," the other whispered, clutching his arm. "Please don't let her die." Ethan's throat tightened. "I won't," he promised. He pulled out his phone and called for an ambulance, giving them the address as precisely as he could while keeping the girls close. When help finally arrived, the paramedics lifted their mother gently onto a stretcher. One of them looked at Ethan. "She probably fainted from exhaustion," the medic said. "Her blood sugar's dangerously low. We'll take her to City General." As they loaded her into the ambulance, the twins clung to each other, eyes wide with fear. "Can we come?" Lily begged. The paramedic hesitated. "Family only." Ethan stepped forward. "I'll take them," he said firmly. "They shouldn't be left alone." The medic nodded. "Meet us at City General." As the ambulance drove off, Ethan looked down at the two trembling girls. "Come on, we'll go see your mom. I'll drive you." The twins nodded, trusting him without question, small hands finding his as they walked through the rain toward his car. Inside, the air was warm, and the girls huddled in the backseat under his jacket. "Are you cold?" he asked. "A little," Lila murmured, staring out the window. "Mommy said she was tired, but she smiled at us. She always smiles, even when she's sad." Ethan felt something twist in his chest. Whoever their mother was, she sounded like someone who had learned how to hide pain behind gentle smiles, a skill he knew too well. By the time they reached the hospital, it was dark. The girls clutched his hands tightly as they entered the bright, sterile waiting room. Ethan spoke to the nurse at the desk, explaining the situation. She nodded, leading the twins to a nearby bench. Hours passed. The twins grew drowsy, their heads resting against his shoulders as they drifted off. Ethan sat there, motionless, his arm around them protectively. He should have gone home after dropping them off, but something in him refused to leave. Maybe it was their mother's face, pale and familiar in a way he couldn't explain, or maybe it was the quiet pull of something he hadn't felt in years. When the doctor finally emerged, Ethan stood quickly. She's stable now, the doctor said. Exhaustion and a mild concussion. She's lucky you found her when you did. Relief flooded through him. Can we see her? In a few minutes, the doctor replied, smiling kindly at the twins. Your mommy's going to be okay, sweethearts. The girls beamed, clutching Ethan's hands tighter. When they were finally allowed into the room, their mother was awake, looking fragile but alive. The twins ran to her instantly, tears of joy streaming down their faces. Mommy, they cried, hugging her tightly. She smiled weakly, brushing their hair back. My brave girls, she whispered. Ethan lingered at the door, unsure if he should intrude. But when her eyes met his, time seemed to stop. Her expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. Ethan, she whispered, his heart stilled. That voice, that face, it couldn't be. Claire, he said, barely breathing her name. She blinked, her lips parting in shock. You saved my daughters. Ethan nodded slowly, his mind spinning. Claire Matthews, the woman he'd once loved more than life itself. His college sweetheart, the one who had left when their paths diverged. I didn't know it was you, he said, his voice quiet, raw. Neither did I, she murmured, eyes glistening. Until now. As the twins clung to her, Ethan stood at the foot of the bed, memories flooding back. Late-night study sessions, shared laughter under city lights, the last fight that had shattered everything. It's been a long time, he said. 10 years. Claire nodded faintly. A lifetime. The twins looked between them, curious. Mommy, you know him? Lily asked. Claire's eyes softened. I used to. A long time ago. Ethan smiled gently, crouching to the girl's level. You've got a pretty amazing mom, he said, making them giggle. Later, when the nurse came to check Claire's vitals, Ethan stepped outside, but the twins followed him. Are you leaving? Lila asked, eyes wide. Not yet, he said softly. You want hot chocolate? Their faces lit up. Minutes later, they sat in the hospital cafe, swinging their legs as they sipped warm cocoa. Ethan watched them laugh, the sound light and pure, and he couldn't help but smile. He hadn't felt warmth like this in years. When he returned to Claire's room, she was sitting up, her hair pulled into a messy bun, a tired but genuine smile on her lips. Thank you for staying, she said quietly. You didn't have to. I wanted to, he admitted. Are you okay? She sighed, looking away. Just tired. It's been rough lately. She told him about her life after they lost touch, how she'd married young, thinking she'd found stability, only to discover heartbreak. Her husband's death had left her with debt and 2 small girls to raise alone. I've been working 2 jobs, she said, voice cracking. Sometimes I forget to eat. That's probably what happened today. Ethan's chest tightened. You shouldn't have to do it all alone. She gave a sad smile. What choice do I have? He wanted to say more, to offer help, but she looked so proud, so determined not to appear weak, that he simply said, then let me at least drive you home when they release you. She hesitated, then nodded softly. 2 days later, when she was discharged, Ethan picked them up. The twins squealed when they saw him, running into his arms. Uncle Ethan, they chirped, the name sticking easily. Claire laughed, a sound that made something stir deep inside him. Their apartment was small. 2 bedrooms, walls covered in the girls' drawings, a faint smell of lavender and old books. Ethan noticed the fridge was nearly empty when she offered him coffee. Without a word, he left and came back half an hour later with groceries. Claire frowned. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to, he said simply. Let me help. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded, too tired to argue. Over the next few days, he found reasons to stop by, fixing a leaky faucet, replacing a flickering bulb, bringing dinner. The twins adored him, always tugging at his hand, asking him to read bedtime stories. And Claire, she was changing too. Her guarded eyes softened whenever he walked in. The laughter that had vanished from her face slowly began to return. One evening, after dinner, the girls fell asleep on the couch while watching a movie. Claire stood by the window, arms folded as she looked out at the city lights. They love you, she said softly. Ethan smiled. They're easy to love. She turned, her eyes meeting his. You didn't have to stay in our lives, Ethan. You could have just walked away that night. He took a slow breath. I thought about it, he admitted. But I couldn't. Not after seeing you, and them. I've spent years convincing myself I was fine being alone. But I think maybe I was just waiting for something that felt real again. Her lips trembled. Ethan. He stepped closer, close enough to see the reflection of city lights in her eyes. You and I lost our chance once, he said softly. Maybe fate decided to give us another one. She let out a shaky laugh. You always did have a way with words. And you always had a way of making me forget mine, he murmured. Silence filled the room, comfortable and warm. The twins stirred in their sleep, and Claire glanced at them before whispering, I don't know what this means, but I'm glad you're here. Ethan reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. It means, he said, smiling, that sometimes the wrong door brings you to the right people. She smiled faintly, tears glistening in her eyes. You really think fate brought you here? He nodded. I was supposed to meet someone tonight. But maybe I already did. As the clock ticked past midnight, the rain began to fall again outside, soft and steady. Claire leaned her head against his shoulder, her exhaustion melting into peace. Ethan wrapped an arm around her, holding her close. For the first time in years, neither of them felt alone. The blind date that never showed up had led him not to rejection, but to rediscovery, to a woman who had once held his heart and two little girls who had unknowingly brought it back to life. And as he looked at them, sleeping soundly in the faint glow of the TV, Ethan realized something profound, that sometimes love doesn't come when you go searching for it. Sometimes, it runs up to you crying for help, wearing little pink coats and carrying the hope you didn't know you'd lost.